Welcome to the show, and our today's guest is the bucket list guy. He's the number one bucket list expert in the world, and he's the author of the best-selling book My Bucket List Blueprint, TEDx thought leader and speaker, and a certified speaking professional. And he's also the founder and also the CEO of Bucket List Coaches, who are now on the mission to help 10 million bucket listers. Now, before he became the bucket list guy, he founded and franchised a chain of personal training studios across Australia. And starting with one client, only one client, he and his teammates went on to do over 2 million personal training sessions and motivated tens and thousands of clients. And he's none other than Trav Bell. And I feel so amazing to have you on the show. So how are you feeling today?
I am feeling fantastic. AM, unreal, mate. Thanks a lot for having me on the show.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for coming on the show. So the first thing is, that came to my mind is like, why did you actually wanted to become a bucket list expert?
Yeah, I sort of fell into it, to be honest. Someone called me the bucket list guy about 10 years ago after I gave my first seminar. My backstory, as you just said, is I was in the personal fitness training business for 20 years. Was one of the pioneers of personal fitness training in Australia. Grew that business, helped a heap of clients around Australia. But I went through a bit of a breakthrough kind of process myself. I went through a mild, I guess, bout of depression. And instead of going on heavy antidepressants, which is like a Band-Aid fix, I decided to try and find out, rather than put a Band-Aid on it, trying to get to the root cause of what I was going through with my mental health. So I found I had to force myself to go to a whole heap of seminars, around positive psychology, NLP, law of attraction, life coaching stuff, positive psychology. And I worked through some of my issues that I was experiencing at the time. And a friend of mine at that time said, "Hey, why don't you teach this stuff?" So I went out and summed up the courage. I put on a talk and package in all my entrepreneurial. I've always worked for myself, so I've really never had a proper job, a salaried, job. All my entrepreneurial, stuff that I've learned and all the stuff that I just recently learned about psychology, put it into a talk. About halfway through that talk, I started sharing the fact that I had a list to do before I die since I was 18, which a lot of people didn't know that about me. So, and it really inspired the group. And then at the end of that first seminar, Joe, one of the participants, said, "Hey, how's all this list to do before you die stuff? It's really, motivated people, inspired us. It's like a bucket list. You're like the bucket list guy." I went, ping, light bulb moment. And that night I went home and registered the bucketlistguy.com. And I was thinking, all right, well, how am I going to monetize this? How am I going to use this? And I knew I wanted to speak, professionally, run around the world and speak to groups. So that's been my online superhero persona for the last 10 years. I've been doing that for 10 years, and I've come to India. I've come to all places all around the world, and I've spoken to all sorts of different people in all sorts of different situations, had all sorts of hecklers. I've absolutely got standing ovations some places, and I've absolutely bombed in other places. So it's an interesting choice of career doing this public speaking thing. And I look it was about 3 years ago, just over 3 years ago, that we decided to leverage the Bucket List Guy brand and create we launched Certified Bucket List Coach at the start of January 2018. And now we've got certified bucket list coaches in 22 countries around the world teaching my stuff now too. So there you go.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So the first thing I want to know is what was the trajectory that you fell in? So like you said, you went fell in the deep emotional breakdown. He had a deep emotional breakdown at a point, you said, and that was mainly the turning point in your life. So what was that basically?
Look, it was a combination, a perfect storm of, legal things happening within my business. I let some very toxic people into my business and into my life. And you know what it's like. One thing leads to another. It becomes a perfect storm, a bit of a downward spiral. I let it really affect me. And yeah, that it all led to me being in a pretty dark place for me. But when I say mild, compared to a lot of other people who've been through mental health issues and depression specifically, mine was very mild. So I'm not going to say I was really down and out and really, really suicidal, but our own perception is our own reality, right? It was enough for me to change what I was doing. And to be honest, it was perfect. I wouldn't have changed anything because it was exactly what I needed at that point in time to get me to shift into from what I was doing to what I am doing now. Like I say, it was a breakdown before the breakthrough that I needed. It was the confusion before the clarity that I needed.
Okay, interesting. So one thing though, so if every single person says this, so at that point in time, it feels like there is nothing else going on. Why are we doing this? So why is it happening right now? But after reaching to a certain point, we are grateful that thing happened. That even happened.
Yeah, and I think you're an idiot if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. You don't learn from it. So, but that's, it's interesting reflecting back on that, because the mental health, the depression, these are the big drivers for why I do what I do now and why our coaches are out there around the world running the programs that they do. We target mental health as an issue that we want to help be the solution for. We want to change the narrative in both people's minds and within companies around the world as well. Change the conversation, give them some tools to be able to self-manage out of where they are now to where they want to be. So it's good because it's become a driver. As coaches, as speakers, as thought leaders, there's a part of us that, probably a big part of us, that wants to coach our former self. We want to help our former self. So we extract the learnings from what we've been through, hopefully extract the learnings and then pay them forward through things like coaching and speaking and running programs to prevent our former self from going through what we went through. It's a bit of a minefield with the headspace there, but you understand what I mean. That's most of us want to coach. If we come out as a coach, we want to coach our former self.
Okay, it's really, really great. So we are still sharing what you know. So what tools did you use when you were in the background situation to actually go from that situation to becoming a the best version of yourself? And what tools you suggest people to now?
Well, I found out pretty quickly that drugs and alcohol is not really a good fix. And I found that positive psychology, and really what I teach today, I built the bucket list guy to really help me. That's why it's a very cathartic, but it helped me and therefore help other people in the same predicament. So, really at the heart of what I do, it's positive psychology. Positive psychology is performance-based psychology. So it's about helping person identify their strengths, what they feel is meaningful in their life, identifying what gives them meaning, what gives them purpose, what gives them a fulfillment, and also helping them to experience more gratitude. I mean, if you get a person to do more of that they're going to have more fulfilled, happier life, all right? But the problem is with regressive psychology, traditional psychology is helping people to be, they go back through the childhood, they go back through the problems, and they try and fix those problems to help a person be normal again. Who the hell wants to be normal, right? No one. So, but sure, if you're not a functioning member of society, and you've got, deep issues, whatever they may be, then we need to apply therapy. We need to apply drugs. So prescribed drugs that you can be, so you can be a functioning member of society again, be somewhat normal, right? But when we're talking about performance, when we're talking about going beyond ourselves, when we're talking about setting new standards, and living a more fulfilled life, well, normal doesn't cut it, does it? We want to perform better. So do more of what you're good at. Do more of what you like. Do more of what really lights you up rather than trying to fix any weaknesses. And that's what performance-based or positive psychology is really about. So all I've done all these years is really talk about happiness, talk about psychology, positive psychology, but with this bucket list brand over the top of it, if you like.
Okay. So how do you define, so like we're talking about positive psychology and bucket list. So how do you define a good bucket list and how can someone actually make it?
I define a good bucket list. That's an interesting question. I'm not the bucket list police here. I wrote a book called the My Bucket List Blueprint, and I did the TED talk, and whenever I speak, I talk about this concept called the My Bucket List Blueprint. It's a 12-letter acronym to help anyone really unpack what's in their head. Extract and articulate this personally meaningful and holistic list to allow you to go north, south, east, west in your own brain and get this stuff out. Because all the stuff that you want to do is inside your head, right? But the problem is that it's swimming around there with your to-do list of what and your to-do list takes priority on a day-to-day basis. Whereas your bucket list, you only worry about your bucket list until you get given a use-by date by a doctor. Which is why the movie, The Bucket List, is shit, because it's about two guys that get given a cancer diagnosis and then they write a bucket list. No, sorry, dickhead. Why do you need to get diagnosed as with cancer before you actually go and do the shit that you want to do in life? My job here, and hopefully people get this, the seriousness of this, is to wake up before you get given a use-by date. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so, but it's very important, is that we don't compare mine against yours. You're from a different country, you've got different heritage, you've got different income and accessibility levels, you've got different circle of influence, as have I. And someone else has got different to me and you. Everyone's completely different. It's not about comparison. We compare too much in this world already. And social media makes it even worse. So it's about extracting the things that light you up. That's what the whole My Bucket List Blueprint is about. It's a 12-letter acronym of questions to help you uncover these things for yourself. And yours is going to be very different to mine, but it's all got to be outside the comfort zone. It's all these meaningful personal goals that you uncover, and more importantly, write down that inspire you to get out of bed in the morning. That's what I say. A bucket list is a tangible life plan, where our career plan or our business plan should fit into our life plan and not be the other way around. So this concept really brings home this work to live principle. Right. And, like if you're doing your business, if you're doing a job, if you're doing career well, it should produce the two resources, lots of the two resources that it should produce, and that is cash flow. It should produce cash flow, and it should produce time flow if you do it right. Double bonus, if you actually love what you do, you're passionate about what you do, and you're of service to the community, you're of service to people around you, and you're doing good out there in the world, and it's hitting your values, which is like your internal rule book, I think that's the holy grail, right? You love what you do and you're making the time and you're making the money. I think that's, you can tick the box on life. But a lot of people can't say that. A lot of people hate what they do. They go to work every single day. They just collect the paycheck, come home, and they're not overly productive because they're just a hamster on the wheel. A lot of people are just sleepwalking through their life, living by the default, not by design, just existing and not living. So this concept has, over the last 10 years of me doing this, has woken a lot of people up and get them to help them recalibrate on their happiness.
Interesting. So why did you actually wanted to write the book? So you were already helping people on through speaking engagements or training coaches. So why did you decided to write your book, The Bucket List Blueprint? Because
about hundreds of thousands of people have asked me, Trav, where is your book? And I was pissed off that I hadn't done it. So that's why I wrote the book. Plus, it was a big chip on my shoulder, monkey on my back, and it was a gorilla on my back for the last 10 years. And so every speaking gigs, I check this out. I did a 5-city tour of, you're not in India, aren't you? Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Bangladesh.
So yeah. I just next door, I ran around India and I did a 5-city tour of India, speaking tour. And, wherever I go around the world, everyone says, oh, can I buy your book? Can I buy your book? After they see you speak. And I'm like, no, it's coming. So I don't know. I probably missed out on millions of dollars. Who knows? But I'm a dickhead for that. But because I'm not running around the world doing my bucket list and, on planes and international travel because of COVID restrictions and lockdowns and no flights. Thank you. I can't believe I'm saying it, but thank you, COVID. I got my book done.
Interesting.
So I got the book done. Went to Amazon bestseller. I'll actually grab a copy of it. And yeah, it's been really, really well received too. So, there it is. If you're watching the video, that is, I'm holding up. If you're only listening to this on the podcast, I'm currently holding up the book. There it is. The pathetic thing about this AM is it took me about 10 years to write it, and it's only about a centimetre thick. Look at that. That's pathetic, isn't it? Talk about a battle of procrastination and perfectionism, all in 1 centimetre book. Anyway, it's done. Tick off the bucket list. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, so I'm also trying.
When's yours coming out?
So I'm actually writing a book. So I started writing it. Actually, I wrote 1 chapter. I wrote the contents and the 1 chapter on November. Actually, not November. Actually, December last year. But then I stopped because there are other projects that are going on right now. The book is mainly about branding and marketing, a combination of both. I didn't decided the name yet. So I think it will be done by the end of this year, hopefully, unless it is one of.
See, that's exactly what you just said. I said that for 10 years. So when someone asked me, I just said, oh yeah, it's coming. I've written all the chapters. I've finished some chapters. Blah 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 blah. You haven't done it, have you, Trav? No, I have not.
In my case, I did, but I actually I think I have to redo it because a lot of things in my head has changed. So
yeah, that's what I said for 10 years.
No,
I'm certainly not going to come across as some sort of book writing guru expert. I'm not. I'm just bragging because I actually ended up doing it.
No, it's good. Every writer said this. It's good to write a book after writing their first one.
It really is. Yeah, it stamps your authority in a certain field. People take you seriously. I did a post the other day. I feel like more of a grown up now.
Interesting.
People take you seriously.
Yeah, so I actually also want to feel like a grown up. I'm as you said, like you were 18 at the time, and I'm 18 right now. So let's see how it
You're
goes.
18.
Yeah.
And you're running a podcast.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about doing a book. Oh, unreal. I didn't know what the hell I was doing at 18. So well done. Well done you.
Yeah, thanks. And so like there's one question that I ask on every podcast or every episode. So that is like, what is learning and education to you?
Mate, it's everything. I tell you, it's a really good question. I'm glad you asked that because I went to university, and in my third year university, I didn't know what I was going to do. I did a physical education degree. I thought I was going to be a kid, like a high school PE teacher, right? Physical education teacher. I think that was what I was going to do. But it wasn't until a guy came into my third year university. He was our strength and conditioning coach. And he lectured in one of the subjects, and his name was Tony. And Tony was doing this thing in the early 90s called personal fitness training. And I had no idea what the hell personal fitness training was. So I asked Tony, I put him aside after it, and I said, "What's this personal training thing?" And he was training this, a lot of celebrities and wealthy people around the better suburbs around Melbourne. And he said, "Oh, you're interested in doing some personal training?" I said, "Yeah. How much do you get paid for personal? How much do people pay you? What do you do with? Do you run around with them and do everything?" And he said, "Well, I'm pretty high up there. I'm on about $100 to $200 an hour." I went, "Shit, well, tell me more, Tony." So he said, "Look, follow me around. Read this book, subscribe to this magazine. This is pre-internet. Go to this event, go to this conference, etc." And I just did everything he told me. Mate, that's when my real learning started. Find yourself a mentor. If this is going out to people of your age, I want to say this: find someone, whether it be on social media, whether they be accessible or just overseas or whatever. But find someone that you can emulate, who can be a role model. Look, even alive or dead, it doesn't really matter. But find people that are doing the thing that you want to do, and download, read, get involved in everything that they do, and you will understand really quickly their psychology to get there. Right? If you want to be, I don't know, like, God, I've mentored a lot of people over the years, and a lot of girls, say, "Oh, I want to be like Oprah." All right. Well, I've got no chance of meeting Oprah. You don't have to meet Oprah, but read all of her autobiographies. Subscribe to all of her stuff on YouTube. Just subscribe to all of her, read all of her books that she's involved in. Subscribe to her programs, etc., 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 and then block out everyone else, and just channel her. And what you'll find is you'll quickly understand how she thinks and how she thinks on the path to get where she's got to. But the thing is, we live in a world of distraction. So our learning, I say we suffer from infobesity. Infobesity. There's just too much information that we're trying to consume. So it's actually good to put your blinkers on and just focus on the role models that you want to focus on. For me, I focused on Tony at the start and what he was doing with his personal fitness training. So I just zeroed in on that. And to be honest, my learning came after I left university, because I was self-employed. So I went and I started reading. I started really reading. I started going to events. I started to invest in coaches and mentor and programs, and invested, should I say, my own money way beyond what I spent at university to go to university. Hundreds of thousands of dollars to self-educate. And still to this day, it's just a process. Right now I'm doing something on my bucket list, and that is reading 52 books in a year. Right, 52 books in a year. That's essentially one a week. So I'm doing it as a challenge, but it's a learning challenge. It's a full-on challenge. And so far, this is what these books right here. These are the ones that I've read. Right here.
Amazing.
So, and I literally every morning at 4:30 in the morning, this is how seriously I take it. 4:30 in the morning, I wake up and I read 1 or 2 chapters out loud. And my partner Tracy, she's an artist. She draws while I read. So both her and I learn. And because I do a lot of speaking and stuff, I'm warming up my voice. And when I wake up, my retention of the information that I am actually reading and learning is so much better than if I'm trying to do it later at night. And it really sort of sets the precedent for that day. So in that, I'm look at that. The last one I read was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. That's a pretty heavy book. The one before that, The Obstacle is the Way. The one before that, Atomic Habits, Never Split the Difference, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. There's heaps of just constantly learning. Have I applied a lot of what I've learned? Shit, yeah, every day.
Yeah.
So, leaders are readers.
Yeah. So I among the list, the few names that you said, I've read, I read Never Split the Difference. Not read, but you can say the audiobook. So I finished.
I spoke on stage. I actually spoke on stage with Chris Voss about a year ago or 2 years ago. Who wrote that? FBI agent.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the most important thing about that book, I saw was that completely flipped my perception was the thing he said about no. If you say no multiple times and then you can get a better response with yes. Previously, everyone suggests Dale Carnegie's book, which is how to influence people, basically.
There you go. I was testing you there.
and in that book, he actually that was all, you can say one of the foundational book which I read very early on.
Yeah.
So, in that book, he said you should say yes, yes, yes. Then you can switch to get a yes through the flow. And that was a complete shift on my end. That no, if you say no multiple times and actually applied it and it works actually. It's never split the difference. So
no, but the thing is that there's you've got to have space to apply it too, and you've got to have an avenue to apply it. There's no use learning something. And mind you, when I there you go. I'll just grab any of these books. I Never Split the Difference. There we go. I've got to make sure I don't lose my place. So this is when I read, I do it with this pen, one of these pens, and look at that. I've even got backup pens. But I just I write all through the book. I highlight sections, and there we go. So wherever I'm just constantly writing in all throughout the book. There you go.
Very cool.
But then you go and apply it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where the real power is.
Absolutely.
That's good. Owning your own business, you can go and then apply a lot of these concepts.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all learning is all about, right? Yeah, so we are almost at the end. So I'm sorry, I took more time than I expected. So
that's okay. I had a long answer.
Yeah. So where can our listeners find you online? So that's the ending.
Yeah, for sure. They can go to thebucketlistguy.com. If they go to thebucketlistguy.com/book, we can get one of these books over to you. I'll sign a copy and send it over to you. Or on Instagram, I think we've connected. I am on Instagram, which is mine is bucketlistguy.travbell, or LinkedIn and Facebook is Travis Bell the Bucket List Guy. You can check me out there.
Okay, so I'll add the link with the description of the video or the podcast audios as well. So thank you for coming on the show, and thanks.
No worries.
Yeah, and thanks for the listeners who listen to the show. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Man. Cool. Keep up the great work. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks again, and thanks again for the listeners who listen.